Morning all. All right, so 3 games tonight in the NHL. Just the 3 games means the preview and a bit of a news video gets thrown together as a combined sort of video. Now, I also saw a comment yesterday about how I don't watch previews because the previews are all gambling and all this. There's no gambling involved. Now, people put in their picks, and I appreciate people putting in their picks. Whoever has the most accurate picking, there's a gift given to them by the channel for winning that, and that's it. There is no actual money that goes into my coffers at all, and there's no money that really goes out other than the cost of the item going to the winner. So at any rate, that being said, let's get into that preview part of this video. There's 3 games tonight in the NHL, 2 of them starting at 7:30 Eastern, 4:30 Pacific, and then 2.5 hours later at 7 o'clock Pacific, 10 o'clock Eastern. Now, this is a TNT doubleheader night because it's Wednesday, meaning that 10 o'clock start, not really etched in stone. So 7:30 Eastern, 4:30 Pacific start between Florida and the Toronto Maple Leafs. This is a huge matchup for Florida, and for Toronto, they're taking it pretty serious as well because they won home ice advantage in the playoffs, and they should get it. So for Florida, they're 36-31-7 overall. Their last 10 games, they're 5-4-1. Away from home, they're 15-19-3. So Florida, if they miss the playoffs, we will have a discussion about their record away from home and how that's part of what sunk them. They're 3 points back of Pittsburgh. The door was left wide open for Florida last night by the Pittsburgh Penguins losing against Detroit. For Toronto, they're 44-20-9 overall. Their last 10 games, they're 6-3-1. At home, they're 25-7-5. They're 5 points ahead of the Tampa Bay Lightning in second place in that division. The matchup so far, Toronto's won both. January 17th, it was a 5-4 overtime win. March 23rd, it was a 6-2 win for Toronto. This is the third of 4 meetings. They'll meet again on April the 10th. So Toronto's looking to officially win the season series with tonight's game. The Islanders and Capitals, they renew their rivalry tonight. The Caps have won the first 2 meetings. We'll see what happens tonight. The Islanders are 38-28-9. They're 6-3-1 over their last 10. Away from home, they're 16-15-6. They're 3 points ahead of the Pittsburgh Penguins. They're 6 points ahead of the Florida Panthers. Detroit did them a favor last night as well by beating the Pittsburgh Penguins. On the Washington side, they're 34-32-8. Last 10 games, they're 3-5-2. At home, they're 17-14-5. They're 6 points back of the Pittsburgh Penguins. So again, they'd be 8 points back if Penguins had won last night. The fact that we saw Detroit win last night has had a big effect on how tonight's preview, or how today's preview is going to look for tonight's games. So Washington wins the first 2, as I already mentioned. On January 16th, it was 4-3 in overtime. On March the 11th, it was a 5-1 win. And the next meeting will be on April the 10th. So that's interesting that 2 of the 3 for tonight are meeting again on April the 10th. And the other one, they're finishing their season series tonight. So, coming up at 10 o'clock Eastern, 7 o'clock Pacific, you got the Minnesota Wild and the Colorado Avalanche fighting for first place in the division. Minnesota currently occupies that spot. They are 1 point ahead of Colorado, though. They're 43-22-9. Their last 10 games are 7-1-2. They're playing very well. So is Colorado. This should be a great matchup. They're 19-11-6 away from home, so their road record's really solid. Again, 1 point ahead of Colorado and Dallas. Dallas with the win in Chicago last night pulls within a point. Colorado 44-23-6 overall. Their last 10 games, they're 9-1. At home, they're 20-12-5. Again, 1 point back in Minnesota, tied with Dallas, 9 points ahead of the Jets. And we will talk about the Jets in a moment here. Colorado's won the first 2 meetings, so they've already won the season series. They're looking to sweep it. They won 6-3 on October 17th and 3-2 on February 15th. And as you can see, I'm not weighing in on the games tonight at all. The unpredictability of the NHL is just right through the roof right now. All right, so the Winnipeg Jets. They're 5-5 in their last 10. And the reason they're 5-5 is Connor Hellebuyck. Without Connor Hellebuyck, their record would be far worse. Hellebuck's been 5-4 over those last 10 games with a .912 save percentage. Now, when you look at the scoring over the last 10 games, well, it's problematic. Kyle Connor, who's really been fighting it lately, 1 goal, 4 assists, 5 points for him. Dubois, a goal and 2 assists. Niederreiter, 2 goals, 2 assists. Nemesnikov has 2 goals, 2 assists. When Nemesnikov's outscoring Dubois over a 10-game period, again, that's not great, not optimal. Scheifele, 2 goals, 2 assists as well. He gave up on a play last night that led to a goal for San Jose, and that's not great. And again, after the game, we had comments from Rick Bowness about if these guys think they're giving us their all, they're wrong. And he basically called his whole team out, and he's right. This is a team that you can see they just give up. They give up on the play. Wheeler, 4 assists for him thus far. Ehlers, 4 goals, 3 assists for him. Lowry, 3 goals, 2 assists. Lowry is a solid player. I love Adam Lowry's game, but when he's one of your top scorers over a 10-game period, it does show that there's a problem with scoring. Appleton, a goal and an assist, and Morrissey standing out with just the 2 assists. Morrissey's scoring's dropped way off. I think his likelihood of winning the Norris probably negatively affected by this stretch of games and just the fact that the Jets are trending in the wrong direction. And so again, if they do miss the playoffs, the expectation is we'll see some major changes. I would agree. Now, I don't know if Kevin Cheveldayoff's job might be in any kind of danger because he made the decision to go with mostly the same team going into this year after they missed the playoffs last year. There was clearly some sort of an issue that whether it was locker room or whatever it was or just personalities, however you want to look at it, it doesn't look like things have been resolved. Everybody gets along when they're winning, but when they're not, that's where things come into focus. So right now, the Jets are 2 points ahead of Calgary, who are 5-3-2 in their last 10 games. Calgary's not been, just absolutely flying up the charts either. And Nashville's 5-4-1 in their last 10. They're 3 points back of the Winnipeg Jets, but they have the 2 games in hand on Winnipeg. Now, the good news for the Jets, or maybe the bad news, is they still have their fate in their own hands. And maybe that's part of what we've been seeing, that there's no sense of urgency, right? It can be tough to manufacture that sense of urgency. So they've got a 5-game homestand coming up. They're at home against Detroit. We saw last night Detroit can play spoiler. Then they've got New Jersey. New Jersey's fighting for first. Tomorrow night against the Rangers, New Jersey fighting to stay in second place. Rangers can tie them and make things more difficult. So New Jersey won't be an easy win at all. Then they've got Calgary, and then they've got Nashville. So those 2 games right there could decide their season, and then they've got San Jose coming in after that. Well, they've already lost twice against San Jose. Then they go to Minnesota and Colorado to end the season. We know Minnesota and Colorado, top teams. They're going to be fighting it out for that top spot. There really isn't an easy game on the schedule. Normally, I'd point at San Jose and go, well, that should be a win, but they've already lost twice to San Jose. So there isn't really an automatic win here or one that you can look at and go, well, that'll be 2 points because of the way things have been going for them lately. So we'll see. Let me know what you guys think about whether or not Winnipeg pulls themselves out of this mire they've been in for months now. Then we get to talk about some stat numbers and some impressive stats. First off, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins has 96 points. The Oilers are looking to become the first team in a while. The last team was the Penguins in 95-96 to have 3 100-point scorers. And they'll be the 14th team in history to do it when it happens. So there's not a lot of teams that can say they've had 3 100-point scorers. The record is 4. The record is 4 100-point scorers on one team. So the Oilers are really, really solid numbers offensively in their defense. Despite, last night there were some shaky moments, but generally it's been much better since the arrival of Ekholm and since the deadline, which has likely meant Ken Holland, he keeps his job no problem. So yeah, we'll see what happens with the Oilers going forward, but Nugent-Hopkins looks like a shoo-in for 100 points. Also, for the Canucks, Pettersson looks like he's a shoo-in for 100 points. It feels like it's been forever since there was a 100-point score in Vancouver, but Kuzmenko set a record last night for the most points for a first-year player with 68 points. He is months away from being eligible for the Calder, which is too bad, because if he'd been Calder eligible, all we would be hearing about right now would be complaints that a 26-year-old should not be eligible for the Calder Award. Before Makarov, or Makarov, I guess, you could win it when you were in your 30s, but when Makarov won it, that's when it changed to 26 being the regulation. Also, Quinn Hughes with 72 points. That's the most in team history in a season for a defenseman for Vancouver. He broke his own record from last year. So Hughes he's playing with house money. He's got 72 points in 70 games. Ridiculous season. I've seen people asking, is he getting himself into the conversation for the Norris? Probably not, because I look around and there's still a lot of talk about Karlsson, which is great. Karlsson's had a great year, but you should be able to play some level of defense to win the award for best defenseman, because there's that. But also you have Cale Makar, you have Adam Fox has had a very underrated season with the New York Rangers, and there are a lot of other defensemen I could throw in there as well. So Quinn Hughes will get his share of second and third place votes. I don't know that he gets a first place vote. We shall see. But it's been a lot of fun to watch. All right. Scoring around the NHL. So scoring around the NHL is definitely up this year. Now, what's interesting is that this year it looks like we may get, and I was just approximating, we may get 5 50-goal scorers. We may get 10 100-point scorers. 10 is probably roughly around where we end up. We may end up with more. We may end up with a couple less. But last year we had 4 50-goal scorers and 8 100-point players. And then the last full season before that was 2018-2019, where we had 2 50-goal scorers and 6 players with 100 points. 2016-2017 and 2017-2018, there were 0 50-goal scorers. There were 3 100-point scorers in 2017-18 and 1 100-point scorer in 2016-17. 2015-16, there was a 150-goal scorer. That's Ovechkin. 1 100-point scorer. And 2014-2015, there was nobody at 100 points and 1 50-goal scorer. Again, Ovechkin. So we've definitely got into an era of... I mean, we had live puck era in the 80s, right? Then we had the dead puck era in the late 90s when nobody was scoring points. And then we went through another dead puck era sort of time around the mid-2010s here. And now it's really blown up again. Now, if we look at the all-time records, 81-82, there were 10 50-goal scorers, and there were 14 100-point scorers. 80-81, we had 8 50-goal scorers. I want to say 50 goal scorers. I'm more optimistic than others, apparently. 12 100-point producers in 80-81. And so, yeah, we're not at that level because 80-81 was a record year. Teams averaged 4.01 goals per game. So each team, that was your average. So if your team scored 3.5 goals per game, you had a problem with scoring. The average right now is 3.19, which is much lower than 4.01, but it is the highest it's been since 93-94 when 3.24 was the average. So right now we're seeing offensive numbers we haven't seen in 20 years, and I think it's the accuracy of the shooters. I've talked about it in videos recently where there could be a 2-inch square that's available in the net and they hit it. And then if that square is available more than twice in a game, we talk about, man, that goaltender's got a weakness. When it's a square and it's just players go, hey, so there's this spot like this up our left-hand corner. Okay, I'll hit it. And they get it. So right now we're looking at some highly, highly accurate shooting. Some very, very solid offense. Now, normally what ends up happening is this is cyclical. So when all this offense shows up, it takes a while for teams to figure out how to shut that down because there's coaches that will want to see that go down again. And in general, coaches put a lot of stock into the defensive numbers. They take a lot of pride in making sure they allow the fewest goals, which makes a lot of sense. There's been a correlation historically between teams that allow the fewest goals and do very well in the playoffs. But, yeah, it is a fun time right now to cover hockey. A lot of goals, a lot of fun, and we may see a higher number of 50-goal scorers than we've had in quite some time, and a higher number of 100-point scorers. I hope it's more than 10. I honestly hope we have more than 10 100-point scorers, and there is a chance that we will. So that would be a lot of fun to see, and it's been a while since we saw that. The interesting thing being, I've always been told that goal scoring means that the goaltending was terrible. And the goaltending in the 80s was not what it is now. I've talked about how equipment's changed, everything's changed, but still, I think there's not enough credit given to previous generations at times. And it's kind of funny because what we're seeing right now means that 20 years from now, we'll probably have kids saying, the scoring back in the 2020s, that was because of insert excuse here. And now it's much more impressive because, and it'll be something about cybernetics and, robots taking over. Anyways, there you go. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through, you just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.